Okie dokie. Apparently, let's see here. We're going to swallow what's called in sales, swallow the frog. Everyone's all pissed off. Oh, you're going to kill your sister-in-law. Yep. And so we're going to go through a few things. See, we're going to go through opposite day, a little bit of game theory. Then we're going to go over that conversation with my mother, that everyone seems to be. And I'm going to show you that show you how she is abusive, and why I want nothing to do with her and my sister-in-law. And what I did was to protect my sister and her kids, both of them. A little bit over what Abeloth is doing, and oh yeah, the pissed off about African America because you missed an opportunity and you want to blame me. But first, we're going to swallow that frog. See, at that situation, so let's go back first to that conversation. Everyone decided that they believed that they had to with my mother. Depending on what class you are in the class. Oh yeah, the other thing is class is about because we're supposed to live in a classless society. Remember, I am Jamaican, just like the Jamaican American, just like the vice president who doesn't want to admit the fact that she's Jamaican American. She's Jamaican and West East Indian. So she has that's her daddy issues, and her chief of staff is blackety black, representing the lower 20% of African America as far as behavior, i.e., the bigoted part. So back to where I was going. So we're going to follow. So we're going to go through the in that conversation with my mom. She was talking about saw all of her, her stomach woes, and then she tried to play this game of trying to say, make it look like I didn't know what she's talking about. She knows I knew what she was talking about. She knows that I know that the stomach lining, about why either she was either overly basic or overly acidic, but more than likely I think she was overly basic on her because she was taking so many meds, and it was basically the doctor not freaking really practicing medicine, but more practicing cover his ass. And what they'll do is they'll do this back and forth, like you take this, like well, cover this one, this, and cover this one. When we've been taught from the youngest, it is a whole mind body system when you view the body, and you view how the doctor takes it, and that's why her doctor literally had to cut down all those other medications, therefore putting her back in homeostasis. All of that was known, so there wasn't really any reason and then for her to do that. And then the other thing is, remember when I wouldn't say anything, I wouldn't say anything when she's talking about money. She's to the average person, she's like, oh my God, he will take care of his mother. No, she's being crappy, and she knows she's being crappy. And when she said, oh, I know not to make you look bad, well, she had already done so, is what she was really saying, because she said it with tried to be slick about it. My mom's really abusive. She's psychologically abusive. She abused my mom. She abused my brother. She abused my sister. And she abused me. At first, I thought it was just me. But as I've looked over the years, it has been everyone. Okay? My brother, he had a kid with a sister-in-law when he was younger. He had an opportunity to get away from my sister-in-law's abuse. My sister-in-law had manipulated my mom while they were both doing the same thing, and he ended up getting stuck with her and having a couple more kids. He speaks black. We don't speak black. Rest of us don't speak that way. That's not our language. And I remember my brother and my sister having an argument when I was a kid, and I was about 7 because they're about six or 7 because they're 10 years older than me. And it was about that being black. So I've spent 42 years watching the difference of and seeing the importance of culture on your thinking by watching these two. So what do I mean by being abusive? Once again, my there was as I've stated, since my nephew has been communicating, quite literally talking to adults since he was born. And from the time I was able to say, okay, he's wet or he took a poop, and then his dad worked on, came up, learned he could understand that. Then he can understand what toys, and so toys he wanted and things like that. So he's been communicating since he was literally came out of the womb, right? Situation occurred. I get out of the military. I'm sitting there doing my thing, and my mom does a lot of these little micro cuts. She abuses her trust. There's two people I truly trust. My grandmother, well, nanny slash grandmother. She was more my grandmother. She's actually more my mom than my grandmother. And even she even said that before she passed. And I actually agree with her more as I've grown. But so my mom's doing all these cuts, and as taking, she abuses your trust, and I trust my sister without almost without question, and that's what my sister-in-law and my mom broke with my sister, and I walked away because if I can't, this will come up later, but so here's the thing: I'm sitting there getting cut, and shit's going sideways. So I'm sitting there finally. I'm like, okay, look, I'm building out this business, and I knew that and I've said this before, that what the economy was about to do, and and I even said, and was like, okay, my mom's probably thinking, oh, you ain't gonna do anything, blah blah blah, and then I said, okay, you're gonna make $60,000, $70,000, and it will adjust for inflation. You can go do all those things you said you wanted to do, and at that point, my mom starts attacking me. Remember, all these are psychological attacks, and it's made on the assumption that I can't see these. She's still thinking I'm this 5-year-old kid, and she can be abusive. Where I can see the micro expressions, and I can see the body language, and I can see it. The reason I don't try to get my mind to kick over, is once I start going, you can't deal with me now. A lot of people, once my mind kicks over, it is logarithmically faster. Okay, this is just me keeping my mind running at barely at idle or survival. So what happens is my mom sit there, and she kept setting up this, kept cutting me under. I'm very precise when I'm doing something. I'm like, okay, this has to happen, this has to happen, da 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 da. And she keeps throwing, and this is what I realized later, that she would do this all the time. And a situation happened, and it was a little bit of money, but I didn't realize she did that too. Now, as I look back, I realized that she was doing that on purpose. That was her plan. And now she had my sister, and she was about to go, and my nephew, my brother-in-law, and my sister were in the middle of doing some change ups, and so we're working really a lot, and my nephew did not know what was going on, so he started acting up, and I realized my mom saw the opportunity to abuse my nephew, and she said, "Oh, blah blah blah, is acting up." Blah. I'm like, whoa 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 whoa. And she was heading up to the Delaware, because I was in Florida, they're in Delaware, and I said, "There's nothing wrong with him. He's been communicating since he was born. He does not know what is going on." Basically, I stopped the meme entity from being able to abuse my nephew. And so they were able to talk to my nephew and chill him the fuck out. But, but the situation comes out. So my mom then gets, because remember, they always need enablers. I have no doubt in my mind my mom is very highly narcissistic, if not psychopathic. Sorry, you're all in my business. Fuck you guys. I, Normally, I would never even said that. I was never planning on talking to my mom. I was being kind to actually, because she had a stroke, to actually speak to her. When I left, I was planning to never talk to her and never see her again. Period. So, so now my sister comes down. Remember, this is the only one of my grandmother's passed. So the only person I truly will trust, without question, is my big sister. And so she comes in, and I'm sitting there watching. Now remember, I am trained in 3 martial arts. I was about 33, so I was still stacked like a freaking. I was still brick shithouse stacked. And she's walking in the hall. Hoo hoo! I'm gonna get kid, And then they started yelling at me, I mean, my sister knows there's a point where you stop. And she, too, there's a distance that you don't get into. My sister in law is just a shitty human being. She's fat, she's lazy, she's everything when you think about that. Every negative stereotype about African Americans, she's it. And she's getting in my face. My sister realizes I'm starting to get pissed. I and well, the things that pissed me off most though, besides the yelling, is she thinks she was entitled to my work and that I'm supposed to give her my money, the work I'm doing, and she's supposed to give it to. I'm supposed to give it to her kids, and she's like, "Oh, you're not that way, my kids." I don't know your fucking kids. Your kids always would sit there because African Americans have been taught, black folks, I should say, because you want to be black, because we're not going to say all African Americans, but those babbly about black, you fucking undercut each other left and right, and you all know it. And European Americans, you know it. You train them to do so. So she's sitting there, I'm looking at her and go, fuck you. I'm thinking to myself, but you do, at home I don't curse. I don't, it's just into your brain. And then I look over and I'm seeing my mom just sitting there, just all smiling. And it's something that Dr. Romney would say. It was like, oh, they create the mess and then they sit back and enjoy their work. But she's sitting there, but this is before, she's sitting there. And then another thing is, I'm sitting there and my sister's talking, argument. I'm looking at my sister and I'm looking in my sister's eyes and I saw greed. And I'm like, what? When a person shows greed, they no longer care about you. These two fucking, this bitch manipulated my sister into freaking, so now the person I could trust, I can no longer trust. In many ways, this mimics what Harry's going through with his brother. Prince Harry is with his brother, Prince William. But we'll get to that later. So I'm looking at this, but then my sister-in-law is attacking more, verbally attacking, and she's inside of my physical space yelling. My sister realizes, uh-oh, we need to stop. She chills the fuck out. I'm barely, if my sister-in-law had touched me, I would have come unglued and I would have snapped her neck. Fortunately, I took a deep breath. I was holding my breath back. I calmed the fuck down. But she, to this day, thinks she's so blah, blah, blah. And that was her thing, to separate the family and break the family up for her own power, and using my mom. So, yeah, I have no qualms with saying that. Carlton, keep your fucking wife away from me. Because if I'm going to jail, I am going to enjoy hearing her neck crunch. So therefore, I probably will never speak to my brother again. And that's not hyperbole. And he's going to try to say, well, that's bullshit. My sister knows that's not bullshit. I'm pretty blunt. I'm not one who double speaks and quadruple speaks like most cowards. I'm pretty much who I am. Because unlike most people, that whole Shakespeare thing in Latin, well, the line that we heard, at least I heard growing up almost every other day, it seemed like, even though it wasn't, but it was still repetitive enough, and it came from Shakespeare. To thine own self be true, and all good things will come to you. To thine own self be true. So that makes me not very likable by a lot of people, because I am not going to twist myself into pretzels to lose my truth. So that way you could feel good about yourself. And that's the first thing narcissists do, is they try to twist you into pretzels so you quit being true to yourself. So, and the other thing they do is what I call opposites day. that's what they're trying to do now. They're trying to devalue me so that way they can value themselves. That's the reason why the bigots need black folks to be poor, so they know who they are, because everything's externalized. They're an external entity, because they're really not people. The kid is dead, and the entity is all that's there. The meme entity. So So we're gonna this one is gonna go. I was debating. Yeah, we're gonna do talk about the. I'm gonna do how bigots act and how the main tactic that bigots use is libel and defamation, and they have to do it in a network self. So that's why it's feminine. It's very networked. So we're gonna do. I'm gonna talk about how I've seen it through, and then we're gonna go through. And when I get done, we're gonna talk about what I meant. What I know I said. Prince William married the personality that is. Actually, we're gonna talk about it now. Get that out of the way since it's on my head. So Prince Harry, his wife. So, first off, let's go with this. We're going to start with Dr. Ekman. If you ever get a chance, and I didn't need it because I could do it without the micro expressions, but I still learned to do it to reinforce what I already could do naturally. And he used this was a see that was contempt with fear. See his eyes, and then you saw him flip that contempt. See happiness. It's not going to show. Okay. Oh, I looked away when he did that. Let's see if it's going to do. There it was. Um, but you see how fast those micro expressions are? Those expressions. See, he's sad with worry. There's a lot of worry, sad. In left eye, definitely worried. Da, 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 da. She's happy, but she's also, as she's tilting her face away, she's looking at you. So she's kind of, and she's also left eye dominant. So she's kind of, most people are going to look at her into the right eye. Most people don't look at most people in both eyes at the same time. So we, it's you could go get that this training. It's actually really really good as far as especially dealing with psychopaths and narcissists because they give everything away. They love that contempt. So the duper's delight, since we're doing contempt, is basically a double contempt with angry rage, with angry and with an angry glee. That's going to come back to something later on. So and okay, so back to the reason I'm saying that Camilla, which is Prince Charles's wife now, Princess Diana said about Camilla, oh, she's made a man out of you. Basically, she was saying, yeah, you never were a man, and you finally kind of stood up to something. Camilla turtles, what's called turtling. You see her in all of her pictures, her shoulders are kind of in, and she's kind of hunkering in. It's the, oh, look what I got away with. By Prince Charles never protecting Diana or speaking up to the paparazzi, he was basically saying, yeah, go free reign. And then what made it worse is Camilla was always in the background doing her narcissistic shit. So Princess Diana never got any rest, and it was a constant attack. Kate Middleton did the same thing to Harry's wife for some reason. Meghan Markle. She's doing the same thing. Now they're both teaming up on Meghan Markle to do the same thing. And you're looking at it and it's like, and so that is what happened. That's why Prince Harry snapped. He's seen the same shit, different pile. And he saw what happened to his mother. And so these two women, because if you're not trained, you tend to go back to what's familiar. What was familiar was Camilla, and then it was Camilla, and then it was being reinforced by his dad, Prince Charles, and then and there's a picture where Prince Harry's off to the right, and you can see him just like angry, and then Charles and William are all yucking it up. The two wives were attacking Meghan. And then Meghan was using that to be, well, I'm the positive. Remember, because everything's opposite day. Because everything's externalized. She bad, I'm good. And you look, and there was a spread showing how the media was covering it. Okay, that's a different story. That's fine. But when you come back home for protection and safety, now the family and the Queen's family was now attacking Meghan Markle. To Your Majesty the Queen, I speak to you as a non practicing mechanic of the Pink Degree, Pride of Palm Bay. Non practicing because my mother was, once again, anything I would do, my mother would undercut, but I am a non practicing mechanic. Your sons have been hijacked by two horrible people. They do not know their place. They do not know the person or what they are supposed to do and what they're supposed to be. And they attacked your grandson. They do not. They love your sons, your son and grandson, not for who they are, but what for they can do for them. They do not know their place. Thank you, Madam Queen. I mean, Your Majesty. Remember, I am still American. Now, it would be suggested that Kate Middleton and Camilla make an appointment with the Queen to learn, because if the Queen summons them, the mind fucking that you've done to Meghan Markle, it is nothing to what's going to happen, what's coming down the pike, because you do not understand what is real. And Prince William could be all upset because, well, he's going to attack because I'm supposed to protect his wife. The reason the Magna Carta came about was because of exactly that behavior of what you're going to try to do. I'm actually protecting you, and you don't realize it. You do not. She's just too busy. The women are just, because they don't have to have the responsibility, but the responsibility that is coming is going to kick you in the nuts. And you needed your brother to be able to deal with it because you two were tight. Just like my sister and I, we had, and all three of us, until my sister-in-law came in, we had this ability of communicating and we protected each other. That's what I knew, that you were attacking my family. Kathleen and McRaven. You try to make it look to others like, oh, what is it? I didn't give you permission to deal with my family. I didn't even give you permission to fucking use my shit. You're stealing my personality, and I'm gonna freaking show you how. You know. See, but that's what's going on. And you say the same thing with Naomi Osaka. See, she's an introvert, and I actually really do understand Naomi more so than almost anybody because she's from Haitian. She's Haitian and Japanese descent, lives in America, right? So she's not black enough for the slaves of the African Americans because we tend to act like slaves, and nobody and then you bitch and throw a temper tantrum when anyone says it. You're shitty human beings. You act really crappy. You've let this 20% of your population devalue everything of your culture, and they did it to you on purpose. And that is the legacy of the crime bill. It raised your criminals and that's worst part of your behaviors to be the epitome of your behaviors. It's like this, this is your king. That's what they're trying to do with Ty. They have to devalue me and show that, well, that's who your king is. That's who you're supposed to be. That's what black people are. And they did that with Jay-Z. You see Jay-Z all like same thing. That's how they actually view and think of you. Everyone's flipping out about Tom Gruden. He's just saying exactly what he thinks of African Americans, the people he's making all of his money off of. But you're going to attack me because you don't want to hear it. They don't want you to hear it. That's the other thing with the whole critical race theory. It's actually a course taught as a, I think it was graduate level. So why are they attacking it? Because if you're educated, say, okay, this is not good, then it will, that you didn't, and I know people, I know that you didn't really earn it. You didn't get what you got because the whole thing, especially as as most non-African American people, because black folks have been taught to take shit and to be poor. And if and it's this whole thing where all European Americans are, they assume they have to be who they are, is an assumption that there is a distance between them and black folks, and to find out that you didn't really get your position because you, out of being really good, because you really weren't competing, because when you actually had to compete you couldn't. It's kind of like McRaven. He used bigotry to get to his position, because bigots use the same patterns over and over again, but when they really, but they need black folks to be there so that way they don't, that they that because they're interspecies predators or intercultural predators, so they don't, so they, it's like, oh, I'm being that way but I'm not being as bad to you, but they're being just as bad or if not worse. So all right, so we now know about these. You would definitely go check out Doc Ekman. It's really good stuff. The TV show Lie to Me. As I said, this was, I also had actually introduced this into the military back in the day before the movie and all that. So, all right, let's talk about good old Aberloch. Lebeloff. Once again, we're going to say back to where we're at right now. The vice president right now, this is the state that this is where it's supposed to be, and this is what it is right now as far as the state of our government. The president, whoever gets presidency and does not believe in America, does not have to listen to Congress. And the Supreme Court, with all of its frickin' wackadoo right wing frickin' justices, will probably uphold that, being dipshits, and then come up with some stupid shit to make themselves feel good, especially Clarence Thomas, who's a fucking sellout. Okay, back to how did, this is old Kennedy. We're gonna get to her in a bit. This is what she's doing, setting up all these things. But remember, you have your bigots up here, which is the people in the big house, that you might have a mammy over here helping her out. But most part field persons, he would rape the woman, and then you have the gay persons. You don't like the word, and I ain't talking about a cigarette. I'm old school. Who, because if you look at African American culture and you see that the most masculine persons are either the jerks, which are the drug dealers, the psychopaths, and then you have the gay folks, because they've been reinforced that they're the shit when they're not. They're crappy human beings too. They're just really mean in general. African Americans, and you know this. If you're Caucasian, you know this. They're just, and it's mean for no reason. It's a short-term game type of meme. That's that 20% the that the vice president's chief of staff is representing. And that's why they attacked Obama with such ferocity, because they can't have you thinking that black folks are not this jerk and mean type of person. Most are not. And then and then those jerks hide behind being black. It's like this deal. This several, I don't know how long it's gone. This, he was a psychopath. This dude was dealing drugs. Where, and first thing he says, "Oh, you think you're smart?" No, actually, no, I'm smart. Second thing is, he was just being a jerk. He's just an absolute jerk, and we start talking about this black, and I'm like, no, I'm Jamaican, dude. I'm just me, dude. And then he's, well, the white folks like you black. Well, I don't give a fuck what they think. That their opinion is not my problem. When it becomes my problem, then I return that problem to them. I'm just me. Yes, I am aware that my skin is dark. Yes, I am aware you're going to treat me like whatever. But I am just me. I am not the projections that you wish to place upon me. That's what that's what bigotry is about and racism is about. It's about projecting your negativity onto others. And that's the reason I don't say black or white, because it's the connotation of the words. The words you speak have a lot to do with how you think. So, so now we're okay. So now we're back to we're going to Full Sail. See, Full Sail, which is a great university. See, Kathleen Kennedy's her whole thing with Full Sail is, there was that other a week ago, the market dropped a week or two ago, the market dropped out of nothing. Get this thing from one person said, it was actually from Chase Hebner, which is one of the owners of Full Sail, and it said early morning session. So thankfully, what that did is it proved to me what I had to say about the Fed and how they manipulated the markets, and they dumped the market. And I'm like, dude, don't you realize I lose, so to speak, it weakens your brand. It is not in my selfish best interest for Full Sail to be weakened, especially as a private university that is very nonlinear, built by artists, for artists, of artists, and tends to produce Emmy and Grammy Award winners, like at Emmy, Grammy, and Academy Award winners. Like, just they just keep crapping them out. It's like, boop, you want to go that? High probabilities, go to Full Sail. But and use of technical artists. It is in my selfish best interest for the brand of Full Sail to maintain its height. It's not, and the second thing is, Wall Street is, and all these others are trying to get Full Sail to go public or to sell parts of it. So once they do that, it devalues my degree, because they don't like the fact that Full Sailors tend to stick to who they are. If you're going to be a Full Sailor, you're going to be kind of a pain in the butt, because you're going to be an artist. You're going to be a technical artist, an artist that solves business problems. And especially Kathleen Kennedy can't stand that. And so she's going to try to control that. So if the owners don't get that through their heads, trying to play, if they're the main strength of Full Sail is its independence. If they can destroy that independence, then they destroy the value of the school, and then they control it, and then it just becomes just some paid school. It doesn't become like a Clemson or a Notre Dame or something like that. Still private. They could still, all they do is put it into a trust and then just live off the capital and reinvest in all that. But they're going to give, here's a bunch of money, and then we're going to steal your, and then they're going to squeeze that brand down to what was left of what they created, as opposed to the brand growing. So they do that at their peril. I can care less anymore, because this is what we're going to go through is, because right now what they did, because right now they're reaching out and trying to take and try anything they can to try to figure me out. The people that think, yeah. All right, so we're gonna go. Which one I had? This one is. Da, 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 da. All right, here's the situation. I was at Full Sail, and there's a dude named Carlos, and this other dude. I dadded up his name. He's a bigot. This dude's this is the bigot, and this is Don, and this is Carlos, and then he had a course director. And that duplicate. And this dude is a straight up bigot. What happened is, I didn't realize I knew he was a racist, but I just really didn't care, you know. But then one day I realized, I was like, holy shit! It was just myself, this dude named Johnny Sharif, who's from Iran, and this course director who also happens to be a bigot. And it was a Freudian slip on my part. I went, oh my god, you're a bigot. And what he did, this was a day that Troy Duvall, it was was on campus. What he did is then he see Carlos, black dude, jealous, and then you have Don, who they're trying to use right now. So this dude runs over and then tells, and it's like, hey man, blah blah blah, because he knew that Carlos didn't like me, and so he's buddying up to Carlos now to cover his own ass. Splits up between Don, Carlos, and myself, and so, and then the course director then tries to get this chick. They all started making this chick afraid of me in the class. So they're segregating. They're creating all this fear. They're doing all of this. Like I'm this bad person when it's the course director and this asshole. Now the only two people who knew that was another course director, Bill Thompson, and another course director for one of the other ladder courses. There was only two people, and they saw that, and they're watching me, and I'm just like, I'm not gonna say a word. I'm just gonna let this shit happen. And they could see it. They saw what was going on. But I've seen this pattern so many times. It's just like fuck it. It's not even worth. It's not even worth fighting, right? And they always do this situation where they um, they they get in the middle of your networks, which is what they're doing now. That's same thing that happened in the military. Same thing because when I got in the military, first thing I was calling, there was a extreme bigot, raging bigot. I didn't know he was a raging bigot at the time, but he was just a piece of shit, anyways. I didn't realize he was a bigot until probably about 5 or 6 years ago, and he's training his kid it, to be like one of those dudes who stormed the Capitol and shit. It's really sad, like a militiaman. But he's a candy ass and coward. This kid was sitting there banging his girlfriend and just doing all kinds of shit and undercutting the good order and discipline of the actual command. And so I call in, and he made himself. Usually, when you go to commands, you're assigned somebody that's kind of like supposed to be help you liaison and stuff. So I just like, hey, dude, I don't know what's Iceland about. I'm in Iceland. Am I gonna have any problems? Or, just what's up? And he used that, and then they attacked me, and it was just one libel for a year and a half. And then they took that libel. Then I get a new chief. He's another bigot, and so now I'm dealing with three bigots because my chief, first class, my whole chain of command basically up to my when you get in is, my enlisted chain of command, we're basically racist and bigots. And here's a dude who does not act black, so to speak. I am the most dangerous thing that they can ever imagine. That freaks them the fuck out. Everything they did was always to undercut me. And they created the libel from one command to the next. There was one thing situation where we played football, it's the command, and I'm like, all right, I'm dipping, bro, I'm out. But I've taught you how to win. Same situation, taught you how to win. But this one brother, I and so I'm taking off. I'm gonna go to Europe, hang out for a week. What do you think? Dude, you've shat on me for a year and a half. All you had to do was, hey Jackson, why don't you? I know you've probably been looking. You booked this flight. You go into Europe. I booked that flight 6 months ago, but they couldn't have the guts to say, hey, could you? I know you've booked this flight. I know you're probably looking forward to it. Could you, cancel that because we now are in the playoffs and we kind of need you. They couldn't do that because I would say that they needed me, that they wanted me to be part of the team. Instead, they were just like, and then they lose the championship because this one black guy didn't know how to freaking put the team in front of himself and listen to what others were saying. And I'm just like, are you fucking kidding me? You guys could have won right off, which is what you had. You didn't need me. If you had played as a team, you would have dismantled everybody. But then they try to blame me, as of course. But the fact is, they didn't have the guts to sit there and say, because if they had said, "Hey, Jackson, could you say that?" That means they had to respect me as a person, and that means I would flip the whole narrative on its head. There's this one person who she's married. She ended up getting pregnant because she was trying to make me jealous, and then she's still with this dude. Then when the dude went to, they were having problems. She's calling me up. I'm like, oh god. I help her keep her family together. help him keep their family together. Once he realized that he was all that whole time he'd been thought he'd been playing me, and it was the opposite. Crickets. There's another dude. I know two dudes who became officers just because they needed to. That the whole ego thing. Once again, one of my course directors, he had a master's, Reneski actually. We're going to see here. We're going to go into that in a second. See, we're going to. He he's a Trump supporter. He ended up getting his PhD because well, he had to be smart. Rob Kroll, same shit. Course director. He doesn't even like his didn't even want his kids to go to Full Sail yet. Yet yet he used the same shit. He pushed out that African American in internet marketing, and then he brought in a female African American, and all you see in her facial expressions is worry. And when you look at the picture, she's always off to the side. That's how bigotry works as a systemic set of actions. I terrify these bigots, and they need you. And they need black folks to attack me because the quote you keep hearing the right fit the narrative. That's what they're talking about. We need to create this narrative so that way we can talk to you like shit, and they keep falling for it. Oh, let's see here. Last Jedi. That's and I have this hypothesis about Luke Skywalker and all that stuff. My hypothesis is George Lucas sold Star Wars to Disney to protect it from Kathleen Kennedy. She's horrible, man. She's just a horrible human being. Yeah. Yesterday I said that about, or 2 days ago I said that about my sister-in-law. Yesterday she put out the Acolyte, so that way she said, "See, he's just a negative person. He's a dark person." Blah 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 blah. Once again, trying to put me into a box where she can say, "See, you can dump your negativity on those people. If you don't have," and and another thing is I said about kids. Your grandparents are screwing you over. What does McConnell do the next? He gets onto the floor of the House of the Senate, and he's talking about this bamboozle of voting rights. You mean to make sure everyone can vote, and that these states that there's a floor on voting rights, and that these states can't screw over voters, that people can actually choose their government, and it's not just being held over by a bunch of very few people who don't even interact with the most people. And then after they're poor, it's like, oh, how disgusting. We know this doesn't work because if you want to look at late stage capitalism, look to the Dutch. Or look over there. You'd much rather live in the Netherlands, even though we have a situation with the Moroccans. Speaking of which, and I pretty much assume the EU's dealing with that whole thing. Well, you don't want to look racist. Let me explain something to you. Look racist, because if you cannot allow yourselves to be turned into a narco state, especially with these shitty people. If they're lying to you, just go, "Hey, are you using Takia, or are you a Medina Muslim, or are you a Mecca one first Mecca Muslim, or are you a Medina and Mecca two Muslim?" Okay, so if you're a Medina and Mecca two Muslim, assume that they're lying to you, and then use that because do you really want to live in a crappy neighborhood? Because if you keep doing this, they're going to destroy your neighborhoods. You need to cut the heads off of those drug dealers because it's ridiculous. You're evil is supposed to be on the outside. People who do not want to just everything being about just barely surviving build civilization. Yes, we know the size of the dark civilization is almost the same size or a little bit larger in some points, depending on where you're at. Especially with Putin's bullshit kleptocracies that he's creating in the last 15 years. Is so kill those motherfuckers. EU, NATO, you need to take out those assholes and stop the flow. It's not so much the that you're dealing and that you're importing cocaine and all that. It's that you believe you are above civilization. Any of those fuckers that think they're above civilizations need a bullet in their head. And that's it's kind of cold. If I should, I should. It's not very peaceful. If they don't get a bullet in their head, that's the old military person in my head. They need to be removed from civilization because they're a toxic thing to civilization. You could do it whatever way you wish that fits within your particular societal. I think the but the ones that are actually actively going and killing people, that's up to you. Personally, I do not believe they should live because they have actively gone out to kill and to threaten and kill parliament members and journalists and things like that in the Netherlands. So, oh yeah, and so what was it? Oh yeah, short-term game. That's the other thing about African Americans. Short-term game. Black folks, they're always in a short-term game. Short-term game says if you have if you have the next rotation and the game ends in the next rotation, you screw each other over. So they're non-cooperative, but the non-cooperative always is presaged by certain behavior patterns. And so when I see somebody and I'm dealing with somebody and I go and I see them go into those behavior patterns, I'm like, oh, you're about to screw me over. Isn't that cute? Thanks for the towel. Or and poverty is a series of single turn games, so there's not much cooperation, and bigots keep people fighting, in that. Let's see here. Oh, Mr. Box, look at that, look at them eyes. See, Mr. Box, that was about when I was talking about Trade Pro Academy. That was that person. You see that anger? That's what I'm talking about. And the thing he would do is he would always interrupt and always bring it back to him. And he's all pissed off that I could catch him with such ease. So who's Reneski? Let's go to. He was one of my course directors. Oh, here, yeah. So, yeah. See, right now they're. Um, see Mike. See, this is Reneski. He does that whole Trump thing. That was right before something. It's the timing when they do this, and they think he basically drained. He's always has contempt. That's his main emotion set. Just like when I say, see Mike. He was in my class. I think he went to Disney with his family. I'm pretty sure that was a gloat because he was helping out Kathleen Kennedy. His thing is he always has a Duper's Delight smile. It might most look to most people as a regular smile, but I can see micro expressions and I know him. It's usually a Duper's Delight, plus by his activities. It was if it wasn't for when he was down and out, calls me. I was like, hey dude, let's do something. And basically, his contract that he uses, he did. If he had gone to Hollywood, and he was getting his ass kicked, I'm like, all right, let's do this contract this way. The contract that he uses is basically the same. Is the probably in an equivalence or near so of the contract that I was going to work with him. He even said it. I couldn't get this in Hollywood. I'm like, you probably could, but you just don't know how to frickin' negotiate, dimwit. And now they're trying to get to Don. John, I'm going to tell you, you better be careful because this is the Game of Thrones. You jump into this game, your wife and your kids are now fair game. And I'm not talking about from me. I'm talking about in general. This, the lives of millions, if not billions, of people are at stake. This is what's at stake. This isn't a game. So unless you really want to play this game, and your wife is up to the fact that she might be that your kids and her are going to be in danger, Do not let them play you. Stay the fuck out of it, because that's what they're trying to do. That's where Reverend Al got that whole "you don't like black people." You know, I don't like most black people, Reverend. And now you understand why. Because you tend to be very mean and rude, and you're jerks to me. Why should I like somebody who's going to be shitty to me? And I don't know your culture. I don't want to be around your culture. And I remember Dom saying something about someone saying, "Oh, you're using those big words," you know, which is part of blacks. They try to always pull you down as opposed to lifting up. And I had to remind him, I said, be careful of the words you use, for they determine how you think. Also, he got his insurance license because that bigoted course director was saying, "Oh, you don't need him, blah blah blah. Just do this without him." And because I was trying to create a structure where I saw everyone had a unique gift, everyone, and it's just the way I would build my teams. Everyone kicks ass, everyone pushes themselves, and the lowest person is should be pushing harder, and you expect everyone to kick butt. Bigots always start once you start seeing people cleave people off on purpose, then you know that your leader's incompetent. Trump is highly incompetent. That's why he needs racism and bigotry. And that's why you need these people. They need this whole racism. And what screws them up, as far as, because they're trying to do the whole white identity politics, and they know, and they're afraid that you're going to treat, that black folks are going to treat European Americans the way have and still do treat black folks. In other words, they know their behavior sucks and is unacceptable. Oh, and another thing I want to show, because somebody once said, "Well, why don't you look at your back into your your account and what's I want you to see. I want you to see something. What the heck is it? I hate this sometimes because it shows how often I really go into my numbers in this, because I really just don't really care most of the time. Okay, about that's not what I'm looking for. See, I only have one subscriber. Wherever you're seeing this is not on my. Where's the studio? Where's not showing up? Okay. Manage videos, though. It does right there. There it is. So wherever you're watching this is all I see on the back end. They're taking my videos and using them. So whatever is being done, because I don't promote any of my channel, I don't really care. So if you're watching this, and I know you are, I don't get any of this data. They're basically stealing my brand. Not basically, they are stealing my brand, stealing my persona, stealing my name. So, oh yeah, another thing is Brandon. Okay, let me go back to Brandon, the Instagram. They keep trying to make it like, say, well, Mayor Pete, the Vice President of the United States, is holding this guy down here against his will, but trying to make it look like he isn't. Now, he might stay down there or whatever, that was part of his things, but he does not want to go back to LA because Ty is going to kill him. Kathleen Kennedy, you're really a shitty human being, and you're a coward at that. So if Bob Chapek signs Kathleen Kennedy on for another 2 years, she will think she owns him. And oh yeah, Brandon's gay, by the way. So, you know, what is it? Who's it? Mayor Pete, you need to primary the vice president because she shouldn't be in frickin'. She can't overcome her own emotions. That's apparently. She's more worried about attacking me as opposed to just doing it. And I remember she had that video when she was Woman of the Year, or whatever, and she was talking about work on, I look at getting something done. My main worry is not about getting something done. My main worry is trying not to kick my brain over and go into hyper focus. Because you think you can't deal with me now? Oh my goodness. You have no idea of what you could not comprehend. With that said, I have one request to the guardians of the Eastern Gate. It is suggested you find your sisters of the Star and ask them to have a conversation with the vice president because she has no idea of what she has no idea of, apparently. And women work from emotion to logic. And so if you can keep her to keep the emotion, she will not go to the logic and won't have the guts to stop being stupid and undercutting me. All of this, my computers are hacked. I got about, let's see here, 6 different people right now watching me at all times. One of them, I think, is Russian. You know, I know you could probably use a FLIR. God knows what other new technologies you can use to see into my place. I have no freaking privacy. All because I exercised my right as an American to go, hey, lady, you suck. McRaven's a bigot. Kathleen Kennedy's a bigot. And all the people that she's connected with, every person that she's been able to connect with has been a bigot. Only one that she hasn't was Don, but that's she's trying to manipulate him. You don't if you lose and yeah, kids, you lose this fight over the next 3 to 4 years, you lose your country. Even if you are a bigot and you want black folks, whatever, you do this, you talk, go back and look at history and look at what happened. It was a slow boil to fascism. It was a slow boil to craven just hatred. All those people who want to make America great again are thinking 1950s. Trump is thinking Gilded Age, early 1900s, where everyone was fucking poor. This is just to clear the air. My next one is I kept wanting to do a buyer persona and start showing you like, okay, what happens when these programs are in place, especially the parts where they're trying to cut out, and how it'll affect your life, no matter what state you're in. So we're gonna do that. Probably do that. Today's Thursday. I don't know if I'll do it later today or tomorrow, whatever freaking floats my fancy. My time, my whatever. All right. Deuces.